The president passed a college football executive order. What does it mean, and what will it affect, and how soon?
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? I'm Chris Gordy. This is Locked On SEC. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. On today's show, we'll get to South Carolina women falling again in the national championship. We'll recap a crazy SEC baseball weekend where we had a bunch of road teams all getting wins. But first, we got to start with the news that came out on Friday as President Donald Trump, signed an executive order to regulate college sports. The order encompasses transfer movement, player eligibility, funding requirements for women in Olympic sports, and the goal is to rein in NIL collectives. Now, the order threatens to review federal government grants and contracts for colleges and schools that don't comply with these rules. So what are specifically some of the guidelines? Well, let's take a look at it. For one, they want to require NIL deals to reflect fair market value. Now, this was already going into the works with the CSC, right? The College Sports Commission. That was their whole deal, was they were reviewing all these NIL deals to make sure that they're real NIL deals and that they represent fair market value, right? So that we don't have any more of these instances of the Oracle CEO giving Bryce Underwood, $7 million or I don't know, whatever it was. You got to actually have to sign a deal that will get you, that is a real name, image, and likeness deal. Look, you want to pay a guy $2 million to come to your school, and you own a company, you want to put his face on billboards and in commercials, that's fine. It's just got to be enough that, make him do enough work, basically, that equals earning that $2 million. Autograph signings, whatever you want, however you want to compensate it, you can build it out however you want. It just needs to represent legit deals. That's what the College Sports Commission was working on. Now, again, what is fair market value? That is up for interpretation and definition. But one of the other rules in here, athletes will be given one free transfer as an undergraduate and then again as a graduate. The order directs the NCAA to basically you would get one free transfer. And so, like the old school rule, like you get one free transfer without sitting out. If you transfer again, you got to sit out a full year, like the old rule used to be. Now, the order also directs the NCAA to create rules that mandate college athletes can play for no more than a 5-year period. If you transferred a second time, you'd have to sit out like the old rule. But with that 5-year period, that includes, red shirt, medical red shirt, whatever. And a school that plays an athlete who does not meet these new limits could risk losing federal funding. Now, the rule changes. When would they take effect? They are scheduling them to go in effect August 1st of this year. It is early April, folks. You're talking May, June, July, August. That's how quickly this thing can happen. The other pieces of the executive order, like we said, the 5-year window to compete, 5 seasons of eligibility. And the goal, really, they want to put pressure on schools and the NIL system to enforce regulations. That's the big deal, is all these commissioners, everybody's like, we need the federal government involved to kind of come in and push elbows around and go, hey, we got rules here, you got to follow them. Now, look, here's the announcement from the White House. They put out a statement that said, college sports cannot function without clear, agreed-upon rules concerning pay-for-play, player eligibility that can't be endlessly challenged in courts, as is the case now, like Trinidad Chambliss, his eligibility deal, Diego Pavia 2 years ago. The order also states the NCAA should update its rules to create a national registry for player agents and create policies that prevent schools from cutting scholarships or other opportunities for women's and Olympic sports in order to pay athletes. That's been one of the big things people were worried about. Like, okay, if we start cutting money because we got to start paying football players more money, the women's sports will be the first to go. Trump and team are trying to make sure there's protections in there. The reality is those sports were always in danger. I mean, football's always been the major revenue generating sport for every school. And, they were always going to stir the drink. So whether we were doing revenue share or not, NIL deals, whatever, football is always going to, be king. And again, the whole idea of NIL and paying players, revenue share, is to put some of them, it became $1 billion business. Instead of all those billions just going into the pockets of the people running the schools and the people running college football, that some of that money goes trickled down to the players. Again, we're not, I agree. They shouldn't be going, well, I'm taking my $1 billion. I'm not taking a pay cut. Let's trim sports. Let's trim the women's sports and give that money to the football players. Like, no, I don't think that was going to happen. But again, this is all to kind of protect that, to make sure that doesn't happen. Multiple provisions of the executive order address areas that federal and district courts have previously ruled on. It does create a situation where NCAA members will either have to follow Trump's order or the previous court decisions, right? Because previous court decisions say, yeah, players can be paid. Players can transfer whenever they like. Now, executive orders can be legally challenged. Multiple lawyers who work with colleges and their athletes told ESPN on 3 they believe the judges would rule the president's order to be unconstitutional and unenforceable if challenged in court. Courts have struck down several of Trump's executive orders in recent months. Previously, Trump even predicted his orders would be challenged in court. He said that at that meeting that they had a couple of weeks ago. But a key sticking point will be whether the president has legal authority over NCAA eligibility rules. And the release of the executive order, like I said, comes a month after Trump gathered a bunch of sports leaders at the White House. NCAA President Charlie Baker said in a statement that the executive order is a significant step forward. We appreciate the administration's interest and attention to these issues. Asked why the NCAA needs an executive order to help solve these issues, Charlie Baker said, well, on some of these issues, it's hard for us to do this without at least some support from the feds. The courts are one way to settle the debate, but it takes a really long time, creates a lot of uncertainty. So, we need an executive order to come in and help save the NCAA. But the new transfer guidelines expected to wreak havoc. Currently, athletes can transfer as many times as they want. That change was made in 2024 when a West Virginia judge ruled in 2023 that his ruling intended to stop the organization from enforcing its bylaw, barring athletes from transferring multiple times and playing right away. Of course, the men's and women's basketball transfer portal opens this week. Hundreds of athletes are already planning to re-enter the portal. Again, this would take effect in August, so they're clear to still transfer and go wherever they want. It would seem, but you would have to be, in the portal, obviously, while this portal window is open, and you probably want to choose your next school before August 1st. Darren Heitner, of course, who represents several players, says, this is terrible for the schools. Do they ignore the presidential order or a court order? Coaches are going to be pissed. He said he expects to represent multiple athletes in suing the NCAA and schools over new transfer restrictions. Other critical pieces in the order include defining the length of collegiate eligibility in courtrooms across the nation. In recent years, players with expiring eligibility have filed lawsuits. The NCAA struggled to enforce their rules since that Supreme Court decision in 2021 made clear the organization was not exempt from antitrust laws, which prevent any group of business from colluding to limit the earning potential of their labor market. Now, in March's roundtable, Trump did highlight his desire for the order to require schools to fund women's sports. And Senator Maria Cantwell, she said in a statement, this executive order identifies some of the key issues, and Congress should have a bipartisan discussion on how to increase revenue to meet these goals. But Friday's order is the second attempt that Trump's administration has used their executive power to create some change in college sports. They did one back in July of last year. Didn't really have any notable impact on how the industry is governed. This one appears to be a little bit different because it's got the backing of a lot of the big stakeholders. Like we said, Charlie Baker in charge of the NCAA. How about other college commissioners? Greg Sankey among those who love this. Greg Sankey putting out a statement saying the establishment and enforcement of consistent national standards for college athletics remains a top priority. President Trump's executive order provides important clarity to help ensure all programs operate under comparable policies. He went on to say, we're grateful for the president's leadership and the continued bipartisan engagement of members of the House and Senate on these key issues. We support House of Representatives' approval of the SCORE Act and meaningful Senate consideration of similar legislation to preserve academic opportunity for student athletes and the long-term future of college sports. Tony Petitti chiming in, saying the Big Ten would like to thank everyone for their leadership and continued efforts to protect college athletics. But the thing is, the president's executive order does not address employment or other major unresolved issues in college sports, such as a push from Maria Cantwell to reshape how schools share the revenue from their TV contracts. Again, that's the whole deal with the SCORE Act and wanting to push this through on, okay, do we all come collectively together and kind of shift around how the revenue is shared, whatever. But this is big. It's notable. Now, again, how enforceable will this be? The NCAA sounds like they're on board. The college commissioners sound like they're on board. It's just from this to that roundtable meeting at the White House a few weeks ago, the one missing ingredient from all this is the players. They don't have a voice here. There's no player input here on, hey, why don't you take our input? We're the people actually who are doing the transferring and signing the NIL deals and all this. How about we get a voice at the table? And that's what has become a little ridiculous here, is that they don't have a voice, and they should, because they're the ones affected most. And I said this a few weeks ago when they met at the White House. I said, bring in Caitlin Clark and Jaden Daniels. Let them talk about how NIL deals had a great positive impact on them. And, Jaden Daniels and Joe Burrow, two guys who transferred from Ohio State and Arizona State respectively, went to a great situation at LSU, both became Heisman Trophy winners. It seems like everybody wants to harp on, there's no loyalties, kids are all transfer. Okay, but there's been some great stories of transfers. The reigning Heisman Trophy winner, Fernando Mendoza, went from Cal to Indiana and was incredible. Up to this game, became one of the best stories in sports last year. But I get reining it in. I get, we shouldn't have kids jump into 5-6 schools in the transfer portal. But I also do believe a little bit in the free market. And when coaches can all jump ship left and right, when Lane Kiffin can leave Ole Miss destined for the playoff and jump over to LSU and so on and so forth, I feel like the players should still have some flexibility with what they can do, including their earning potential. If someone wants to pay them, again, fair market, free market, if somebody wants to pay them $8 million to go to school, that's that idiot's decision to write that check. It just is. Again, so we'll see what happens with this, but it does sound pretty impactful that this thing may actually go into effect, and we'll see what happens with that. All right, still more to come here on Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. Hey, first, guys, Way Day is here, and if you've been thinking about upgrading your space, this is the time to do it. We're talking some of the best deals of the year on furniture, decor, outdoor essentials, everything you need to refresh your home during Way Day. Wayfair is offering up to 80% off with fast and free shipping on everything, making it easy to find pieces that fit your style and your budget. It is super easy to filter your style, size, and price, so you're not wasting time scrolling. The reviews and photos will help you feel confident in what you are ordering. And Wayfair verified products are vetted by specialists, so you know you are getting quality in the products you order. Whether it's upgrading a room, adding outdoor pieces, or just finding something that ties your space together, it makes the whole process simple from start to finish. Way Day is the sale to shop the best deals in home. We're talking up to 80% off with fast and free shipping on everything. Head to wayfair.com April 25th through the 27th to shop Way Day. That is Wayfair, WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Hey, thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen of the day. Thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now you can take it up a level, go ad-free, join our Everydayer Club, get Locked On SEC with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 for a year. Go to lockedonsec.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. Rolling along here, Locked On SEC. We will get to SEC baseball here in just a second, but first, a couple of basketball nuggets to pass along. First off, Alabama extending Nate Oates, giving him a new contract to be among the 5 highest paid coaches in college basketball. Of course, he's the architect of this golden era of the Crimson Tide hoops program, and taking the program to multiple Elite Eights, their first ever Final Four since he took over in 2019. He was rewarded with a substantial pay raise back in 2024 following that Final Four run. But look, there's a lot of sexy open jobs out there, North Carolina being one of them, and some of these other ones that could potentially open. Alabama putting out there saying Nate Oates has signed a new contract that will make him one of the top 5 compensated men's basketball coaches in the country. Over the past 7 years, he has accumulated a 170-73 record. And like we said, led the Tide to 2 SEC regular season tournament championships. 6 appearances in the NCAA tournament, 2 Sweet 16s, 2 Elite 8s, and that legendary Final Four run. So congrats to Nate Oates picking up a big payday. Also, a few other nuggets here. Florida big man Ruben Chinyelu winning the Naismith Defensive Player of the Year. He was a rebounding machine, averaged a double-double this year. So congrats to him. And then Darius Acuff over at Arkansas was honored with the Bob Cousy Award, presented annually to the country's top point guard. The Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame hands out the awards. Congrats to him on picking that up. All right, it was a wild weekend of SEC baseball as we are headed into the thick of SEC play. And the story this weekend was a ton of road teams taking care of business. 6 of the 8 series winners were all road teams. How about that? Let's recap it a little bit. Georgia, they swept Mississippi State in Starkville. Michael O'Shaughnessy, his 3-run homer and extra innings capped 4th-ranked Georgia's historic sweep of 5th-ranked Mississippi State Saturday in front of 10,000 fans at Duty Noble Field. Georgia won 8-5 in 10 innings on Saturday after a 10-9 and a 3-1 win in the previous days. Mississippi State was 18 at home this season coming into the series, and Georgia has now won each of their first 4 SEC series this year. Their first place in the league. They swept the series in Starkville for the first time since 2004 and swept a top 5 SEC road series for the first time in records dating back to 1990. Georgia leads the nation with 92 home runs. They improved to 27-6 overall, 10-2 in SEC play. Give Georgia credit, man. They have been incredible this season. They were incredible this weekend. How about Texas? They took 2 out of 3 on the road at South Carolina after giving up 9 runs in a series opening loss to South Carolina on Thursday. The Texas baseball pitching staff roared back. Sophomore lefty Dylan Volantis picked up the win on Sunday, going 5 2/3 of 1-run ball, striking out 6. And 3 times this year, Texas has failed to win a series opener, and all 3 times the Longhorns have rebounded to come back and take the series. Texas now 26-5, 9-3 in the SEC. Carolina, they fall to 2-10 in the conference. Obviously, still playing hard, still fighting hard after they fired Paul Maneri a couple weeks ago, but still a rough season for South Carolina. How about LSU? They took 2 out of 3 against Tennessee in Knoxville. LSU catcher Cade Arambidi hit 4 home runs, including a grand slam in extra innings, as LSU beat Tennessee 16-6 on Sunday in 12 innings. Yes, you heard that right. They scored 10 runs in the 12th inning to get the win. Arambidi's 4 homers set the LSU record for most home runs in a single game, and LSU improves to 22-11 overall, 6-6 in SEC play. Tennessee, Josh Elander not going well, 20-12 overall, but 4-8 in SEC play. Saw some Tennessee message boards not happy, yelling, fire him, get rid of him. Certainly a lot of season to go, but they have to turn things around quickly. How about Alabama? They go on the road and win 2 out of 3 at Oklahoma. 16th ranked Alabama scored 3 runs in the top of the first inning Saturday and made it stick to get a 3-2 victory over number 11 Oklahoma to win a pivotal SEC series. Alabama took Thursday's game 10-7, lost Friday's second game 4-2, and then Oklahoma, they dropped their second straight SEC series, lost for just the 5th time at home all season. Alabama 25-8 overall, 8-4 in conference play. Ole Miss, they took 2 out of 3 on the road in Gainesville against Florida. Ole Miss stunning number 21 Florida with 5 ninth-inning runs to earn a 5-2 win in front of 5,800 fans and the 3-game series, winning it 2 out of 3. So congrats to Ole Miss. That was certainly a great road series win in Florida. How about Missouri? Took 2 out of 3 in Lexington against Kentucky. They beat Kentucky 5-2 on Sunday afternoon to earn their first road series win over a ranked opponent since 2021. Back in 2021, they took down number 3 Mississippi State. But freshman Blaze Ward had a career day, went 3 for 3, reached base all 5 times he came to the plate. And Mizzou's bullpen posted 5 scoreless innings in the win. With the loss, Kentucky drops to an impressive 15-3 at home this season, but obviously losing 2 out of 3 to Missouri, not good. Only 2 home teams in the SEC won all weekend. Auburn took 2 out of 3 against Arkansas. The Auburn Tigers and Arkansas entered this weekend series ranked right next to each other at number 17, number 18, and they split the first 2 games of the series. So a pivotal game came in game 3 of this series. Auburn took game 1 on Thursday. Arkansas evened things up on Friday, but Auburn came out on top, took the series in a dominant 8-3 showing. Their bats were on fire as 2 Auburn hitters hit home runs, and sophomore Alex Petrovic got the win on the bump, 5 innings of 3-run ball, and big-time bounce back for Auburn. Things were not going well. They had lost 6 of their prior 7 games entering the weekend. And Auburn's got life as they head into the heart of their conference schedule. Arkansas really behind the 8 ball now, man. They have got to dig deep. This was a preseason top 10 team that everybody had high hopes for, but it has not been going well for them the last couple weeks. And lastly, Texas A&M, they took 2 out of 3 versus Vanderbilt at Bluebell Park. The Aggies offense came to play this series. They played a doubleheader on Friday, won 8-4, and then 12-0 to take the series. Aiden Sims went the distance for A&M, scattering 3 hits and striking out 8 to improve to 6-0 on the season. 4 Aggies had home runs in that 12-0 nightcap. And A&M now 25-6 overall, 7-5 in SEC play. Vandy drops to 19-14 overall, 6-6 in SEC play. So look, the SEC is it's super competitive, but man, I can't remember the last time we saw 6 teams go on the road and win series in the SEC. That's just home field advantage is normally a thing, but in the SEC, that was not a thing this past weekend. All right, still more to come here on the Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. Hey, guys, it is tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is a lot. Trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient, sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth, and wondering if they even get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve. Well, you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to turbotax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment today, turbotax.com. All right, final segment here on Locked On SEC. And how about UCLA roaring past South Carolina women to win their first national championship in program history on Sunday? The Lady Gamecocks, their quest to win a 4th national title ended in ugly fashion for a 2nd straight season, losing UCLA 79-51 in the NCAA women's basketball title game on Sunday. The Bruins put together a masterclass against fellow 1 seed South Carolina, cruising to that win in Phoenix for their first NCAA championship in the 52-year history of UCLA women's program. But they pummeled UConn a season ago in the national semifinal, or they got pummeled rather by UConn a season ago. And of course, UConn got South Carolina in the championship last year. And UCLA looked outlasted Texas on Friday for their first ever championship game appearance. And they were barely challenged by South Carolina on Sunday. So how about that? The two best teams in the SEC this year, Texas and South Carolina. UCLA took them both down. Kudos to them, and blowouts in both games, basically. But discussion about UCLA all weekend long. It was about all their veteran players. They're really, really good. All 5 players finished in double figures. But it was all UCLA and South Carolina. They've got a lot to figure out. The monster program Dawn Staley has built over the last 15 years. Look, they're not going anywhere. They should be one of the top contenders to make a 7th straight Final Four next year. They shot just 29% from the field. The 28-point margin was among the biggest in championship game history. So they're going to have a chip on their shoulder when they come back. It's the 2nd straight year South Carolina's fallen flat in the title game. Like I said, lost 82-59 to UConn last year. And Dawn Staley, she's going to get to work. League scorer Joyce Edwards and Tessa Johnson are expected to return. Bettina Okot is looking for a 5th year of eligibility from the NCAA. Veteran forward Chloe Kitts has said she'll be back after missing this year with a torn ACL. And there's also the possibility that forward Ashlyn Watkins could return after recovering from a knee injury and taking a year away from the program to focus on personal growth. On top of that, they got some promising young players coming in, including a highly rated recruiting class that includes guard Jersey Robinson. But the Gamecocks will have to identify a new leader, replace Raven Johnson, who excelled as a floor general during her time there for South Carolina. She was incredible. And so now the Gamecocks, they got to move on. And look, I think they're going to be just fine. Dawn Staley's program's not going anywhere. Obviously, a little tiff on Friday night's win over UConn with Gino Auriemma, and just seemed like he was a little bit of a sore loser and taking out on Dawn Staley. But nonetheless, great season for Dawn Staley and company, and Vic Schaefer in Texas. And we hope that the SEC can get back into this thing and win a title again next year, because it feels like, man, they were taking turns. Dawn Staley was winning a couple. Kim Mulkey and LSU jumped in there, 1-1, and now UConn last year, UCLA this year. 2 straight years of the SEC not winning women's college basketball title. Quick note, Georgia, they announced their new women's basketball coach. They got Katie Abramson Henderson moved on, and just after 24 hours after parting ways with her, they announced their new hire, McNeese head coach Ayla Gazzardo. She spent 1 season at McNeese where she led her team that finished with 10 wins and a Southland regular season championship and a program best 29 victories. She said in a statement, Georgia is a special program that helped lay the foundation for the success of our sports. Lady Bulldog basketball is a storied history and a setup for continued excellence moving forward. So before her time at McNeese, she was the head coach at Southeastern Louisiana, 8 seasons there. She was 233 and 112. Or 122. And so Georgia basketball trying to catch a rising star. And a quick gymnastics note. I saw Georgia, Florida, LSU all punch their tickets to Fort Worth on Saturday. And then on Sunday, I saw Oklahoma punch their ticket. Mizzou season came to an end. Good run for them. And then as of this recording, we're still waiting on results on Alabama and Kentucky. Thank you guys for tuning into today's Locked On SEC. Make sure you subscribe and follow so you get all the latest episodes. And if you never miss an episode, we tell you all the time, the Everydayer Club is built for you. You can get our show, Locked On SEC, ad-free, plus members-only Discord access, where you can chat with me and a lot of our other SEC hosts, all hanging out there. Go to lockedonsec.supercast.com to learn more. That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On SEC. Have a great day, everybody. Come on back and see us tomorrow.